in Alaska. Welcome to the State Wide Teleconference. My name is Maria Rensel. You can join us at 8 p.m. Alaska time by dialing into the number we provided on a Facebook page. The Facebook page is also called the State Wide Teleconference. So like it, share it, help us get the word out about what we're doing in Alaska to make a difference. Our primary objective is the restoration of the rule of law. What we want to do now is I'll ask everybody to mute out by pressing *6, and then later when we have questions and answers, you can mute back in again. You can come back in again by pressing *6 on your telephone. Again, the statewide teleconference brings individual Alaskans together for a conversation. We discuss important issues that are important to the people of the state of Alaska. This assembly and discussion are guaranteed by both the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution as well as Article 1, Sections 5 and 6 of the Alaska Constitution. This teleconference receives no funding, expends no funds, has no assets, and takes no action that would place it under the registration requirements of APOC or the FEC. The opinions and comments expressed by callers, presenters, and or hosts represent their positions alone. Tonight's teleconference, we're going to hear from Oathkeepers and the 223 rally, and probably in reverse order. Next week, we're having an open forum. No presenter, just a free-for-all, hopefully a fairly well-controlled free-for-all, talking about SJR 9 and its companion bill, HJR 1, and that is, they're calling it the School Choice Initiative, and that'll start next Monday night, same bat time, same bat channel, 8 o'clock, right here at the same phone number you dialed in on tonight, and we'll put some information out on the Facebook page telling you how that's going to go. And so what we do at this point is we have, because of our mission, that's the restoration of the rule of law, I do a little tiny brief summary of a point of education on the rule of law. There's an interesting quote here from Battlestar Galactica. There's a reason you separate military and the police. One fights the enemy of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people. The first federal statutes governing the militia of the United States were enacted in 1792. There were some revisions in 1795 during the Civil War. An amendment removed the language that had restricted federal militia membership to free whites. The old militia statutes were repealed and replaced by the Militia Act of 1903. Commonly known as the Dick Act for its sponsor, Representative Charles W.F. Dick, a Major General in the Ohio National Guard. The Dick Act gave formal federal recognition and financial support to the National Guard, which had become as a volunteer state-based civic organization after the Civil War. According to the Dick Act, the organized militia of the United States is the National Guard plus naval militias maintained by some states. The Dick Act also defines the unorganized militia. The unorganized militia is all able-bodied men between 17 and 44 years of age who are United States citizens or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens and who do not belong to the organized militia. They're subject to call up by the federal government in order to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, or repel invasions under the Constitution's Militia Clause. And with that, I'd like to open up the floor for announcements from around the state. If you have an announcement, unmute your phone by pressing *6 and give me your name and tell us where you're from. Okay, and I'm not hearing any chirp. I'm not hearing any announcements. If you think of something as we go through the call, feel free to talk about it later on as we go into the after call. But If there are no announcements, I'm going to go ahead and first of all introduce David Luntz of the 223. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to introduce Lonny Meeks, the Northern Region Alaska representative for Oathkeepers. Lonny?
Yes, hello.
Welcome. Tell us all about it.
Well, thank you. Again, my name is Lonny Meeks. I live in Delta Junction and kind of the coordinator for the Oathkeepers organization. The Oathkeepers is a nonpartisan association of both currently and formerly serving military, police, and first responders who pledge to fulfill an oath that all military and police take to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath, which I took in 1971, is an oath that was mandated by Article 6 of the Constitution itself. And it is to the Constitution, not to politicians. And as an Oathkeeper, we declare that we will not obey any unconstitutional orders, such as orders to disarm the American people, to conduct warrantless searches, or to detain any Americans as enemy combatants in violation of their ancient right to jury trial. And what we do as Oathkeepers, we reach out to both the current serving and veterans to remind them of their oaths and to teach them more about the Constitution that they swore to defend and inspire them to keep defending it. When we took the oath of office, I took it both as an enlisted man and then later as a warrant officer in the United States Army. That is an oath that I will live up to and hold until the day that they bury me, until my day on earth is done. So it's an oath that will not go away. It's not something that once we retire out of the military or we resign or medically discharged, we still gave an oath, and it's an oath that we should keep throughout our lives. And the motto of the Oathkeepers is not on our watch. So we're very interested in preserving the rights of American citizens, again, especially those that served in the military or have taken an oath of office. Even the new citizens take an oath to the Constitution. So it's not something that's taken lightly. And in Article 6, it says that both the senators and representatives, they shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. And I think that many of our politicians of today have forgotten the oath that they have taken. And so we're just out to try and remind people and remind them of the oath that they did take when they took office.
Yes, Lonny, this is Pam Good from Delta Junction.
Oh, Pam.
Lonny, I have you loud and clear. I heard quite a bit of silence. Maria, are you still there?
I'm still here. We were moving. But we're here, Lonny. Tell us a little bit about what's going on and how your organization functions in Alaska. What's your outreach like?
We've just kind of started up here in the northern region, and for Alaska, for Oathkeepers, due to the fact that if Alaska was actually a country, we would be the 33rd largest. And if you take California, Montana, and I believe Texas, we still have a larger landmass than what they do. So what we've done, and I've talked to Stuart Rhodes, who is the founder of Oathkeepers, and we've divided Alaska into the northern region and the southern region. And again, I'm on the northern region, which is the Denali Highway forward. And one of the things that we're trying to do with Oathkeepers is to build what we're calling civilian preservation teams. And what that is, that can be a force multiplier. And we want to take, as veterans, we have a lot of skills and abilities in survival skills and emergency communications and medical care. And what we're trying to do is help the community themselves to be force multipliers to where they can preserve civilization by providing their own security, their own disaster relief, their infrastructure preservation, emergency communications, strategic food reserve by canning and gardening, and some medical care. So that's one thing we're trying to get doing. We'll be speaking at the 223 rally February the 23rd up in Fairbanks at the park, and I think a colleague of mine, David Luntz, will be speaking about that later. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get teams put together. It's a recommended kind of a special forces team for the community where you have communications experts and medics. One thing that we're going to participate in later, as the spring comes along, we're going to do a ham radio communications, because if the phone wires are cut or the electric infrastructure happens to go down, one of our main means of communications, even in a disaster, has proved to be the ham radio in your amateur radio operators. So that's one thing we're working on. We're trying to get people educated in it. We're trying to get people to get certified in it, because you have to have a license. And, we don't want anybody doing anything illegal. So you have to have a license in order to operate a ham radio. So those are some of the outreaches that we've just started. And we're looking at doing things later on in the summer, and the calendar is still being developed for that.
That's something that we're really interested in. I was just asking my husband about getting involved in that. How do you? I've seen your Facebook page, and but other than that, is there a way to join?
There is a way to join. Social media is something that has really taken off. But Oathkeepers themselves, we have a website that I encourage people to go about to learn more about Oathkeepers and the organization itself. And it's Oathkeepers, one word, oathkeepers.org. And you go there and you can look up, the founding or the president, the founder, Stuart Rhodes, who has been on numerous radio shows. He's been on Fox and some other things. He actually taught at Yale and has a law degree, so he teaches quite a bit about the Constitution. But I encourage people to go out to learn this. The oaths are there. We have the oaths, the oath of office posted on the right-hand side for veterans to look at it and get an affirmation. And the site was dedicated actually to a Marine who passed away in 2006, John Adams. He died at the age of 16. He lied about his age and joined the Marines to fight against Japan in the Pacific. So he died in 2006. He was a dedicated patriot, still believed in his oath to defend the Republic, and took it deadly serious. So, we encourage everybody to take the courage and stand up for the oath that they did take.
And Stuart Rhodes, can you tell us a little bit about Stuart Rhodes' story?
Yeah, Stuart Rhodes, he's the founder and director of Oathkeepers. He served in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper, and he was disabled in the rough terrain during a parachuting accident during a night jump. He's a former firearms instructor, and he was actually a former member of Representative Ron Paul's D.C. staff. He wrote Enemy at the Gates column for the SWAT magazine, and he graduated from Yale Law School in 2004, where his paper, Solving the Puzzle of Enemy Combatant Status, won the Yale's Miller Prize for the best paper on the Bill of Rights. So he also assisted in teaching U.S. military history at Yale and was a Yale research scholar. And he's presently writing a book on the dangers of applying the laws of war to the American people. So he's been there, he's done it, and, not only talks the talk, and he walks the walk.
I'm just looking at Oathkeepers' site. I'm going to go ahead and post a link to it on our statewide teleconference page, and I'm sure people can just Google it and look it up.
Absolutely. It's very easy if you go on Google. And there is one thing, too. There are some orders that we will not obey as Oath Keepers, and it's about our personal freedoms and, how we will help the American people keep the peace and maintain control. Orders we will not obey. Anything that's in violation of the Constitution, because, again, we took an oath and swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States for this republic, not for just ourselves, but for our children and our children's children.
It's really interesting looking at this page right now. There's a big poster on top that says Snowden honored his oath.
That is correct.
Well, good. Let me open it up to the floor for more questions from you. And people are welcome to unmute and ask questions.
Maria, this
I know
is Pam from Delta Junction.
Go ahead, Pam.
How long has Oathkeepers been in Alaska?
Well, Oathkeepers has been in Alaska, I want to say since it started, which has not been that long ago. But the thing is, and they try to look at different ways. It's like starting a new business. You got to figure out how you're going to elect your president or your vice president or who's going to be in charge. And because there are so many different little pockets throughout the entire United States, and again, Alaska is so vast. In talking to Stuart, I actually got involved with this just this last year, 2013, and in talking to the regional guys, it was thought that it'd be much better if we divided the state because we are so vast. And, the Alaskans in the interior are so much different than those around the big city of Anchorage. So it's been a little bit better communication as far as the groups go. But Oathkeepers has been here, and I don't know the exact year. David, can you help?
Actually, I can help you with that.
Okay.
The very first chapter started with IACC with our board of directors. John Watts brought it here, and
that is correct.
Yep. And I'm really bad with the time frame, but we had IACC open in 2009 and 10.
Yeah, and then some of the, some things happened in the state of Alaska and some individuals, and it kind of went by the wayside. Fortunately, enough people had the enthusiasm, and we've tried to rejuvenate Oathkeepers. But I think you're about right. I think 2010 was actually when it started getting going, and it kind of faded away.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was just curious. And you probably touched on this a little bit earlier, Lonny, but what exactly are the prerequisites for joining Oathkeepers?
We really don't have any prerequisites. What we want, though, and if you look on the main webpage of oathkeepers.org, and again, the oaths are on the right-hand side, and then if you go up into about Oathkeepers, we actually have, and to join, we actually have an oath that you can sign. And it tells about, we talk about all our bylaws, how we are organized, the quorums and all that. And at the end of the page, there's a certificate that the undersigned, and I'll read that if you don't mind, the undersigned being the duly elected Secretary of Oathkeepers certifies that the foregoing bylaws and so on and so forth were signed. But you can actually sign an oath and take it. So there's really no prerequisites. What we want is people that are willing to stand up for the Constitution, stand up for their rights, and there are orders that we will not obey. For example, the first one, I won't obey to disarm the American people. That's in violation of our Second Amendment right. And so we're going to stand up for that. The warrantless searches. People have to believe in the Republic. We have to believe in what our founding fathers established in 1776. And So that's what people have to believe in. Prerequisites? None really, except that you will defend this country.
Okay, I was curious if you had to be like ex-military or ex-police or in the armed forces.
No, you do not. You do not. We have people that have never served, and we kind of ask them, look at the oath and sign it. And we do have copies, that we hand out at some of the meetings, the Constitution of the United States, and on the back, there's a place for you to sign, just like George Washington did, to uphold the Constitution and to maintain it and the liberty. So that's what we ask of people. Believe in what we're doing. Believe in our republic.
Great. Thank you for that. I'll be on the side.
Hey, Lonny?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is Mike Coons from Palmer, retired United States Air Force Tech Sergeant. I couldn't agree with you more in your statement on that oath, because I took it in 71, and again in 75, and right on down the line for 20 years. So yeah, that's not something that's ever going to go away, and I meant it then and I mean it now. Question, along with being in the Air Force for about 10 years maybe, I was a member of the Alaska State Defense Force. If you had any contact with the State Defense Force up there in Fairbanks? I don't know if they're even existing anymore. I know we have it here, and there are some serious issues and some concerns that are going on with General Cactus and how they're being utilized. But have you contacted any of those guys or been in or anything like that?
That's a good question. I was actually I almost joined the Alaska State Defense Force here, which was about 3 years ago. And the thing is, they've pretty much dissolved. No longer, should I say, exist. I think they do in spirit. The thing that happened to the Alaska State Defense Force, and I don't know all the details with it, but they used to actually be able to carry arms. They were to assist, the National Guard, and could carry weapons, and were required to get qualified, so on and so forth. That was all taken away from them. And the guys here in Delta Junction that were part of it, the only thing that they were trained on was water purification. And sad to say, they have many of the members have resigned, and they were have pretty much just gone away. So it is sad, and it is a sad state of affairs. But I don't know all the details with it, but you're absolutely right. They have pretty much been dissolved.
Yeah, just to give you a rundown, just real quick. Under Alaska State statute, the Alaska State Defense Force is a military police / constable force that, and this is still statute, that is designed in the event of a statewide emergency to give additional law enforcement assistance to local law enforcement. They're not to be taken over or anything else. There is a force multiplier. And we were constables up until, I want to say, about 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
And General Cactus came on board and stripped that whole thing away. And then shortly after that, I stuck it out for about another year and a half trying to get the governor to reinstate and go back to the statute, which didn't happen. So I resigned. I resigned as a major, and those guys, there's a lot of them there that they took that oath to the United States as well as the state of Alaska, and if there's any way that I would say that those guys need to reach somehow or another, reach at least maybe the southern southern end here needs to maybe reach out and touch these guys and see what assistance they can that you might be able to give them or help them with, or at least maybe give them an opportunity to see something that they can do that's going to re-energize them and get the hell out of the State Defense Force and go to you guys.
Absolutely. And I know many of the ones, especially the guys that were over in Delta, they were actually retired military, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Army. So, we have talked to them. I mean, regardless, it's good to know how to purify water. So these guys got trained in that. So that's one thing that we could use in our civilian preservation teams.
Yeah, because there was a few medics, not a whole lot. They were trained up on communications. I know when just before I left, we were all required to get a ham radio license, and so from that standpoint, they did get a lot of training on communications. As a matter of fact, they used that communication system that the National Guards got, and it was quite a bit of training. And so from that standpoint, they would be a good tie-in for what you guys are doing.
Right, absolutely, and we will touch base with them. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Lonny, and do you have anything that you'd like to close with before you introduce David?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say, this has been a privilege and an honor, and I'm humbled to be able to speak. As a veteran, I'm hurt at what's happening to our country. And I just wish that more citizens, whether they're veterans or not, more citizens of this great republic would stand up and start to speak out, so we can preserve our republic for the future generations. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Lonny. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we appreciate what you're doing. And now I just want to introduce David Luntz to learn more about the National Day of Resistance coming up on 2/23.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Before I jump into that, I just wanted to make a few comments because there was a question earlier about the difference between the CPTs and the militia. And I also wanted to say something about the State Defense Force and the militia. And basically, I can't speak for all the militias in the state, although I have helped stand up quite a few of them. Militias in the state are classified as unorganized constitutional militias, citizen militias. So Maria touched on that earlier. The State Defense Force is actually classified as an organized militia because it is the state's militia. It is still active. To my knowledge, I do stay in touch with some State Defense Force members. They try and recruit the militia quite regularly, and we try and recruit them. And and I will say that a number of the State Defense Force folks that have left have joined the unorganized militia because of the way that the State Defense Force has been handled by the governor. Right now, the number I was given is there's between 65 and 80 members in the State Defense Force total across the state. So that's not very many. So I know a lot of them are unhappy with the direction it's going, and a lot of them that have left are waiting for change and have voiced that they would probably go back, later if things changed. So that's pretty much what I know about the ASDF. I know there is members in Fairbanks. There's one member in Delta, and I know they do meet in Fairbanks at the Armory, and I have talked to them about doing some coordinated training between the unorganized and the organized militia, and we may be doing some of that later this year. Now, as far as the other militias throughout the state, I do not know what communication they've had with the State Defense Force, but I do know that other militias in the state has also had ASDF folks join them. So we'll have to see where it goes. Hopefully, as this new election period comes through, maybe there'll be some change in the future, and we'll see some change in the ASDF. My personal feeling with the State Defense Force is that it's supposed to be our last line of defense for the state. Personally, I do not like the way that they have been attached to the National Guard. So they could be decoupled and managed separately. My problem with them being with the National Guard is that the National Guard has essentially been federalized, and I do not like our state guard being connected in that manner because of them being our last line of defense. So I think in the state, that's why you have seen such a growth in the unorganized militia, is because people recognize that there needs to be a last line of defense, and so hence you see the growth in the unorganized militia. So the difference between the CPTs, citizen, what did you call it, Lonnie? Preservation teams, and the militia. Oathkeepers, even on their website and locally in the media, have constantly claimed they are not a militia. They are a organization, and these citizen preservation teams are made up of volunteers with a mandate to train community members on how to self-preservate. So they're not a militia in the sense that the Central Alaska Militia is, or South Central Patriots, or the Alaska Municipality Defense Force is. Those are militias. And although we do have some similarity between the way that we both train citizens, we both believe in training the community in self-preservation and stuff, there is a line drawn, and I can tell you that as the commander of Central Alaska Militia, that I and our staff have agreed, and we have pretty much issued a standing order that basically denies participation of militia members in those CPTs. Now, I can't speak for the other militias, but I think most of the militias in the state feel the same way. And there's a couple reasons that is done. It's one, because we do respect the integrity of the Oathkeeper organization and them and their claim that they are not a militia, and we do respect their mission, but we do not want to taint that organization in such a way that our participation in it could be used to destroy it. Another reason why we do not participate is for basically operational security. All the militias throughout the state are based off of community they're community militias, and we do not fall under one single umbrella. We are all autonomous from each other. And the reason for that is because if a militia happens to screw up, and like we have seen in the past, we do not want all the militias in the state to be taken down because of the actions of a few people. So we keep them autonomous from each other, and that's another reason why we do not want those people that participate in those CPTs to be in the militias, because if a CPT happens to make some mistakes out there in the field and gets themselves in trouble, we do not want that connected to the militia. And vice versa, if a militia happens to have some problems, we don't want the Oathkeeper organization to have any problems. So I hope that clarifies the relationship between the Oathkeepers and the militia. If it doesn't, after I'm done explaining the Day of Resistance rally, you can ask me anything, and I'll tell you, or try to answer. I did, before I get started, wanted to know if John Root was participating in the call, if he was on telecon. Okay. The reason I asked for him is because he's the organizer for the Wasilla Day of Resistance rally, and I was going to ask him if he wanted to talk about that at all. But basically, the Day of Resistance rally it was held nationwide last year in 2013, and as a concerned citizen, I knew that the time frame was coming up again this year, and I enjoyed supporting it last year because I am very much pro-Second Amendment. That I felt it was necessary to support it again this year, and when I started researching, I couldn't find anything out there, and it had appeared that maybe it was just a one-time thing, and I felt that this was important enough that it needed to be carried on, maybe annually. So I started contacting people, friends that are like-minded in the state, and see if they wanted to, help form up some rallies in their communities. And I took the lead on Fairbanks, and John Root took the lead on Wasilla, and we were hoping that there would be some major effort in a couple of the other cities, but to my knowledge, those are the only two cities that will have major events going on. There may be some local citizen-type participation, street corner stuff in Anchorage and Juneau and Palmer as well. But right now, the two rallies that I know about that are being promoted in the state are going to be in Wasilla and Fairbanks. So why are we doing it? Basically, it's to exercise our First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and in an effort to retain our Second Amendment, which provides the teeth and the backbone to protect all our amendments. Now, the Second Amendment really isn't given to us by that right of self-protection isn't given to us by the Constitution. It's just affirmed. The right to self-defense, we were all born with that. That's a God-given natural right that we each enter this world with. And so that's why it's essential that we retain this right, because if we give up the right to self-defense, then we have no way to protect our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. We have no teeth, and we will be rolled over just like a number of other countries in the past have demonstrated. Last year in 2013, there was and I will say Alaska is very, I won't say extremely pro-gun, because Mark Baggage has been demonstrating by supporting he's been supporting some non-pro Second Amendment activity, as well as Lisa Murkowski has. But for most part, Alaska is pro-gun. We are one of the very few states, a handful of states, that you can conceal carry without a license. You can carry open carry. You can pretty much buy, anything you want. And if it's in a area that you need a license, then you can go get a license and you can buy that. So we do have a pretty nice state to live in as far as our Second Amendment is concerned. But just because that's the case doesn't mean that we need to be quiet and not be vocal about supporting our rights. In 2013, there was a number of city-pushed, state-pushed, and federally pushed legislative actions, primarily in the lower 48, that were anti-gun. And we want to make sure that those type of actions don't enter our state's borders, if at all possible. We want to demonstrate in a peaceful manner and deny the birth of that legislation to our fullest extent. And some of these legislative actions, for instance, in New York City, they passed a Ammunition and Firearms Enforcement Act of 2013, and that was passed by New York City. Basically, the mayor or the governor signed it in law the same day as the legislature passed it. Contains a number of firearms regulations and has a severability provision in it. It has wide, broad prohibitions against weapons, and basically requires gun registration, required citizens to register their guns, just like in Connecticut we saw this past year. What's funny about New York, though, is after they passed the registration law, they came back a few months later and dug in the records and identified who owned certain weapons, and then they basically sent them letters and said, "Oh, you registered something that violates the max capacity load or the type of weapon, so you need to turn it in or relocate it out of the state, or else you're going to be held liable and we'll come and get it." On January 16th of 2013, our president he issued 23 executive actions against the Second Amendment. And our vice president hailed it as a great victory towards the safety of our nation. Most of these anti-gun laws that they pass are in the name of safety, and which is, they use that for everything. It's for our own good. It's for our safety. They're doing this because we are, little children, and we can't take care of ourselves, and we need adults to take care of us and slap our hand when we are bad. And put us in a corner and take our toys away. So a couple other things that were passed in September. The Secretary of State John Kerry, on behalf of the United States, signed the Arms Trade Treaty, regulating the international trade of conventional arms in order to limit and restrict arms flow in and out of the United States. In November, New York City moved to confiscate those those guns that they outlawed. In the end of November, District Judge Krieger in Denver said the state sheriffs couldn't sue the state as a group because they were elected officials. They tried to stop some anti-gun legislation, and they were told they can't sue the state. December 3rd, we saw some legislation that was raised. I think it's up in the House right now on doing away with 3D printers because they believe that these 3D printers are the next thing that's going to do us harm and move us out of the safety zone and violate, they're not going to be able to know who's making these guns now. So we want to take those 3D printers away and stop them from manufacturing firearms. So basically, there's been even a number of legislation passed in 2014. I won't go into all that right now, but the 223 rally on February 23rd is basically a platform for people to stand together in defiance to protect our rights and do it in a peaceful manner. We want to assert this right and make sure that we control our destiny and that the state and federal governments do not control our destiny. Funny thing is these people that feel it necessary to provide safety came out of our own citizenry ranks. But once they get some power behind them and they forget where they came from and want to use that power to control. So we need to do everything in our ability to fight back peacefully, why we can still fight back peacefully. And basically, the rally on 23rd February in Fairbanks will have a number of speakers on a number of different topics, not just the Second Amendment, but Barbara Haney will be speaking, Frank Turney will be speaking on nullification. There'll be a lady in Delta Junction speaking on why we need to protect our freedom and liberties. Lonny Meeks will be speaking about Oathkeepers. I'll be speaking about the Second Amendment, and we'll have Aaron Bennett speaking on tyranny, and there may be, and we will also have the Senate candidate Joe Miller speaking both in Wasilla and in Fairbanks. He'll be speaking in Wasilla initially, and then fly up to Fairbanks and take part in ours later in the afternoon. I think the mayor of Wasilla will be speaking in Wasilla, and I'm not sure what other speakers they have lined up. They expect to have a very, very large crowd in Wasilla, and I hope we have a large crowd in Fairbanks as well. With that, I'll close and be open to any questions.
Hey, Dave, this is James Squires in Delta Junction. Now, where exactly is going to be the rally, and what are the hours for that?
The one in Fairbanks will be from 1 in the afternoon to 4 p.m., and it'll be at the Veterans Memorial Park next to the State Building on Cushman.
Hey, that's great. Well, I'm really excited because last year I participated in Delta Junction with you and some others, and we had a great time. It was awful cold, but we didn't have all the speakers, so we're hoping for some good weather and looking forward to the speakers up there in Fairbanks.
think it'll be warmer than last year. Last year was, I think, 40 below, maybe. It's pretty cold.
There was plenty of wind that day and lots of snow drifting across the road. I remember that.
Hey, Dave, this is Ryan Butcher in Palmer. I just wanted to say you guys are doing an awesome job. You and John Root. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. Keep it up, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Mike. Do we know what time the Wasilla one is and where?
Ryan, do you know?
That one is from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's at Wasilla Lake at the parking lot at Newcomb Park. You know where Pizza Hut's at, right across the street.
Right, yeah, that's where we had it last year.
Yep, that's where it'll be. I
was one of the people that was pushing that last year, and it was cold, it was windy coming off that lake, and we had about 120 hardy souls showed up.
Cool.
And so with this warmer weather, hopefully on the 23rd, there'll be they can get a bigger turnout.
Right. And
I got tied up with a bunch of stuff going on with Citizens Initiative, so I just couldn't do it this year. But it was a good time last year.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Donna again from the south part in Anchorage here, and I was just wondering is there going to be a Oathkeeper speaker at the rally here in Wasilla?
There's supposed to be Justin Giles, I believe, is on the docket to speak.
I know they will have a table set up there as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then also, David, the Alaska State Defense Force does have a gun show in Fairbanks that same weekend, the 22nd and 23rd, at the Pioneer Park Theater, or otherwise known as the Pickle Barrel.
That's correct. They do have a gun show Saturday and Sunday. The militia, the Central Alaska Militia, will have a table at that gun show. So if you want to stop by and say hello to us, we'll be passing out some flyers for the rally as well. But we'll be primarily there to try and talk to people about the unorganized militia and the importance of supporting it and joining.
Okay, and are there any more questions? That brings us right up to pretty close to 9 o'clock. If you just want to finish up a little bit with some closing comments, and then we'll just open up the call. We say goodnight from the phone call, and then we have an informal conversation afterward.
Hi, this is Donna one more time. As far as the CPTs are considered, can you tell me what kind of skills the Oathkeepers are looking for?
You know, as far as this is Lonnie, as far as the CPTs, you know, I would ask anybody, what do you need to survive? Well, especially in Alaska. What skills? For example, I think we're going to have a class on ice fishing. A lot of people have not experienced that. So the skills range from anywhere. Do you know how to can your vegetables? Anything from canning to medical. So it's even the ability to sew. You know, if you can mend your clothes, a lot of people don't know how to do that, unfortunately. So, you know, even building the fire out, a survival fire, what do you need? For example, taking a piece of Vaseline, or taking a piece of cotton ball, put it in Vaseline, put it in a camera case or something to hold that. You know that will actually burn for almost 5 minutes. So any kind of skills that you have that can help a community survive is what we're looking for.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Just kind of curious about maybe that I kind of heard of CPTs as being maybe communications, because I have a background in Coast Guard communications, things like that might set up a network, or a ham operator, maybe infantry type skills. I was just reading this pamphlet that talked about, or actually reading the online website that talked about maybe infantry type shooting skills, things like that, because I personally have a background in that, and I was wondering if I would somehow fit into that.
Can I say, let me say it in one word, absolutely. Communications, we have somebody up in the northern region that is actually helping us with a ham radio test. So, yeah, communications, setting up a network, setting up antennas for ham radios, very, very important. And I know our local emergency planning committee, we actually have a guy that does ham radios. So, skills, people say, well, I don't have any skills and abilities. You do, absolutely. Everybody has skills and abilities. So they can all be very, very useful in forming these CTs.
Both the southern region and the northern region have Facebook pages, actually. So I think you can look for them on there and request to join and get tied into your local groups.
Well, I encourage you to, please.
Lonny, how are you guys going to run that event on the ham radios? Do you know yet, or what's that going to look like?
We do have preliminary things that we're going to do. We're trying to organize both the South and the North in getting our license. We have a guy that's with I believe it's the amateur radio up here in the North region, along with the guys down in the South. So we're trying to all get up to speed, because many of us are not licensed for the ham radios. So that's an ongoing thing. But again, like David said, please check on Facebook. That's where a lot of our stuff is at. And do a search for the Oathkeepers. We have both the northern region and the southern region. So check that out. If not, you can find me on there. I'm in the northern region and be more than happy to talk to you.
And I'll just add too, if you can't find those pages on Facebook, you can always go on the oathkeepers.org page. I think you have to be a member, though. They have a forum there, basically, that you can jump on. And there is a State of Alaska forum specifically for Alaska there. And you can jump on there and make contact with folks, too.
Okay, I was just thinking that I wonder if maybe folks would be interested in learning about how to get their licenses and kind of go through it with you as you make the sausage, figure it all out.
Yes, they would. And that's one thing we're trying to do. Like I said, both the north and the southern region, we're looking at taking the test, as a matter of fact. I know David and I have talked about taking the test. We do have a guy that is licensed up in the North Pole footprints area. So, yeah, we're working towards that. So, absolutely. And where do you live again? I'm sorry?
We live in Fairbanks, at the south, at the very west end of town.
Excellent. Come to the rally on the 23rd. I mean, both David and I will be there. Even at the gun show, we'll probably both be there. I'm not going to guarantee I will, but be more than happy to talk to you about it, please.
Okay, that sounds great. Appreciate that. I think we have a table at the gun show that weekend, too. I don't know what we're promoting, but we'll be promoting something.
There you go.
There's always something. We just get a table. And
absolutely.
So.
The thing I know, it's much easier face-to-face than it is over a telephone or something, or even on a face-to-face.
Well, real good. That sounds good. I'll I'll do what I can to share this rally some more around on social media, and then I would encourage you guys too to call into KFAR Radio. They have a show, Problem Corner, from 11 till noon, and then also Michael Duke's show every day from 4 to 6. And you can just share your event, and they like having you on, and one of them might even talk to you for a little bit and get your word out that way, because they have hundreds and hundreds of listeners that come on. So.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That ends the official call, and if anybody wants to stay on the line a little while, if there are things you want to discuss, feel free to stay on for a while.